You ready?
Just a second. Ready when you are.
I've always been drawn to music, but I really didn't learn how to play an instrument till I was about 18. When I was a little kid, I just like to sing. I like music. I enjoyed it just like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And around my neighborhood, a lot of people playing horns and wind instruments. And I always thought that was cool. These older guys would come out on their porches and play. And then there was a guy down the street who played guitar, and I was just knocked out by that.
Yeah.
But, I started really into my freshman year in college. It was either that or I was just going to do something really horrible. It's been a friend to me, ever since then.
1, 2, 3.
There's a place in the woods, surrounded by stone, where the light fades quick and the dogs won't go. I took you there, make you mine, bend your throat, said do what you want. There's sunlight in when I'm scared from me, and baby, let the sunlight in, never even kiss you. If I was anywhere where there was a piano, like I was at a lot of political meetings when I was a kid. My parents were politicians, and there might be a piano in the room, and I'd get on it, in a corner somewhere and pound away, and kind of like my granddaughter Margot does now. But that's how you learn music. I guess. I mean, some people are prodigies like Mozart or Robert. Who I walked in a room one day. He was about 10 or 11, and he had a couple friends in there, and they were recording rock and roll songs. He had a guitar, and his friends had tambourines and doing a Richie Valens song, I remember. And I'm like, where the hell did you learn that? So, it's just kind of a natural thing.
Where did you learn that, Robert?
I don't know. From the time I was a little kid, musical instruments were just around, so we would play them.
Yeah.
And but he was always playing, so it was easy. Like playing drums and stuff on whatever was laying around, oatmeal containers or World War I helmets would be drums a lot, and just weird stuff.
The classic pots and pans in the kitchen.
Yep, sure.
You still do that.
Well, yeah.
I mean, your drum kit's more from like a regular Ludwig set to like, boxes and, pots and pans.
Well, for recording purposes especially, like you get a lot of cooler noises from playing weird stuff. Or just whatever's there.
Never even kiss you. Well, never even kiss you, baby. Never even kiss you, baby. Oh, God. Well, I got scared, I was standing there. I must admit I didn't know quite when. When I left and I ran away. I never looked back till this day. Hey, hey. Kiss you, baby. Never even kiss you, baby. Never even kiss you, baby. Yeah.
That was the first time we played together in like months.
Really?
Sure. It was hard.
I'd say you pulled it off pretty.
That's good.
I remember the first time I heard you play over at the Dallas courthouse, and it was I was sort of blown away with I would compare it maybe the stuff you played that night most closely to Dylan, probably.
Well, thank you.
Just the amount of storytelling that came out.
Well, hell, man, he's a gigantic influence on me. I call him the master because, you know, he's why I started writing poetry and lyrics. And, you know, I do these streamer shows on Facebook every weekend, and I always play at least one Dylan song.
But music has always been a major part of our family life from our grandparents. Like on my mom's side, my great grandfather was Welsh, and he would play a little chord organ and sing Welsh hymns and stuff when I was really little.
Oh, that's cool.
So, and I remember it, and it was very influential. Like, wow, he's playing music.
Yeah.
And my granddad, I never knew him. He died before I was born, but he was a radio announcer back in the old days where, you know, a lot of live bands, string band, country type bands
Sure.
would come in and play on the radio up in Lenore and Gastonia, Lynchburg, Virginia. He moved around and, you know, would introduce the people at the live shows.
Right.
But I really never knew any about that. But, you know, I think, you know, some of that transferred to me. Because nobody in my family growing up played music. We all loved it.
Y'all have lots of records and books and stuff about music and art and culture, but you also had instruments in your house, like pianos.
Yeah, they were there if
horns.
you wanted to give it a shot.
Yeah.
So it was the exposure to it.
Yeah, saying, you know, you pick up a guitar. I mean, if you never picked up a guitar, you know, you got to do that first before you learn to play it. Kind of feel it out.
So when you were in college, when you first started playing guitar and everything, that was a pretty interesting time to be like in Chapel Hill.
Yeah, it was. It was a good time to be there. I don't know how it is now, but it was like, that would have been 1970 when I started playing, and then I actually played my first live gig up there at Chapel Hill my senior year. And, you know, but I learned from hanging around a lot of other guys. You know, it'd be 3 or 4 dudes in a room, smoke-filled room, and, you know, guitars, it might have 6 strings, or it might have 5 or 4, you know.
Where do you find the inspiration for your songs?
Well, just from living and, you know, I just being alive and observing. A lot of it, I don't know where it comes from. It's like these voices start speaking in my head. But I think all writers are like that. You know, you it's like you're fishing for something that's going to connect. To me, you know, some words will come, and then I'll usually write them down, and I don't push it though. You know, it's not like I'm not doing exercises anymore like when I used to write sonnets and villanelles and that kind of thing, regular schemes. I just let it create itself in a way. Of course, I have to get in the seat, pilot seat, and fly it to that
Sure.
point. But I really can't describe or, you know, analyze how I write because it's kind of random and haphazard. That is Louvin Brothers song, The River of Jordan. You remember that one?
Sure.
To the river of Jordan, our Savior came one day, and we read that John the Baptist met him there. And when John baptized Jesus in Jordan's rushing water, the mighty power of God filled the air. on my way.
To the river of Jordan.
Gonna wade right
In the
in.
rushing water.
I'm going down,
going down
to the river of Jordan. Let the cool water cleanse my soul. You know, I can't wait to get back out with the Serpents, because one thing we like to do is create music right on the spot sometimes, especially like with the players we got, Corey Dudley in particular, a bass player. He and Robert have this incredible rhythmic connection, like you know, they was formed in the womb almost. And you know, real good guitar players like Neil Blott and Shoemaker, and then Jeff White on fiddle's really inventive. You got to be inventive, and
Yeah.
it keeps it fun. Don't you agree, Robert?
Yeah, you take a song by Bob Dylan and make it your own song and drag it out and, you know,
Yeah.
make something new out of it.
Now Robert's a little tighter about it than I am. He gets ticked off at me sometimes because I'll mess up and might go in a different direction.
That's what
No, I wouldn't say
We
you
have
mess up.
every now and then there'll be a little fumble, but
Not in a while.
not very much. You know, we don't have train wrecks as a rule.
That's it. Have there been some train wrecks?
Well, he was in a band, a really good punk band that was tearing it up all over town. And it ended, I think the lead singer jumped off stage and started punching out people in the audience. And then
Well, that definitely happened, yeah.
y'all
It's a punk band. That's supposed to happen, isn't it?
To him, it was part of his stick.
I never been in a band like it. I was on a couple football teams, rugby teams like that. Man was stricken with dreaded leprosy, and he sent for the man of God to pray. And Elijah said to Naaman, go dip yourself in Jordan, let the cool water wash your spots away. I'm on my way,
To the river of Jordan.
gonna wade right
In the
in.
rushing water.
I'm going down,
I'm going down
to the river of Jordan. Let the cool water cleanse my soul. Oh, now.
I know I've seen you guys play a couple of times, and it almost has. You don't want to classify it in one sort of genre, really, but it almost sort of has that jazz feel where
Thank you.
you know there is this overarching story, but then there's these subplots that everybody's sort of taking and running with.
Yeah.
Is that how you guys sort of feel like you're just sort of you're
Well, I mean,
harmonizing with what's going on?
it's a real form of music that we just leave it open. We're playing with people that we trust to do cool things and to understand what we're trying to create. And it just kind of, their voices and our voices together mix to make one sound. So it is a form of jazz, I would say.
Yeah, in jazz, you take a familiar tune or melody, Over the Rainbow, or, and then you explore what's in that. And that's pretty much what we do. But it might be like a George Jones song or a Dylan song or one of mine. It just kind of depends. But there's different ways to do them, on different nights. Don't you agree?
For sure. The room has a lot to do with it. The people, the energy of the place. I mean, it's a very American form of music that we take from, with jazz being in that, for sure. But, we don't really practice. So it becomes what it is in the moment. And we're just lucky that we've been doing it long enough and playing with great people to where we're able to pull it off and make something cool. Hopefully. And there's so many influences in it. Like everybody we're playing music with understands early rock and roll, punk rock, fusion, jazz. They're all fans. They love the stuff. And, it just comes out.
Jordan is many miles away, and its mighty waters I may never see. But I find myself an altar in an old-fashioned church, and my river of Jordan it will be. I'm on my way,
To the river of Jordan.
gonna wade right in.
In the rushing water.
I'm going down to the river of Jordan, and let the cool water cleanse my soul. I'm on my way,
To the river of Jordan.
gonna wade right in.
In the rushing water.
I'm going down to the river of Jordan, and let the cool water cleanse my soul.
can definitely see all those influences. I mean, where you're pulling from all these different styles and everything. And I know you guys have traveled all over the world. I mean, you've toured all over Europe and everything. And
Well, somewhat, yeah.
somewhat, yeah.
Yeah, just in
Love
the
doing that.
Netherlands and UK. That's
Yeah. How much do you feel like you pull from those experiences of other places versus how much you pull from, like, say, growing up here in Gaston County?
Well, I mean, I would say that was like an affirmation going there. Like
Yeah.
everything that we've been working on was like, oh snap, they get it, they understand what we're doing, and it was eye opening in that we would go and see works of art and stuff that seemed out of reach, and once you could see it, be like, oh, I can do that. And I would say that set both of us off on a
the
Van Gogh
visual
museum,
quest
that we really hadn't been on, more so than anything with art. Just being exposed to completely different way of life, from graffiti in the subways to incredible museums and architecture that we'd never seen. It was just like completely eye opening, and it definitely inspired a lot of music, several albums worth, I'd say. But I don't know, it's just very eye opening and very affirming. And being on a really high level, getting to play shows with like Jason Ringenberg and the Sadies, bands that I really revered, Los Lobos, and be there with them and rocking it just as hard and getting props.
Jason Ringenberg.
Yeah. Lots of people. Swamp
So our
Dogg.
heroes, we got to, be on the same bill with heroes. I mean, part of when I started really got serious about playing music. Hell, I was about late 30s by that time. I wanted to go out to other cities. I was playing around here, but frankly, I mean, it was hard to get gigs. And it was a whole different atmosphere back in the 90s. You still kind of had to play cover songs. And, Charlotte was kind of like Gastonia, I guess, where, people over there just want to hear beach music pretty much. But it started changing, but I watched the Belmont Playboys. I thought it was very courageous. They started going up to New York every week, and they'd play on Tuesday nights, and then they'd drive home, and they built up a big following, and they got a big name doing it, and I'm like, that's what you got to do. Now, I've changed a lot since then, but I started going out to other places, and it was rough. Cleveland was a place I found very accepting, just like I found the Netherlands to be accepting. UK was a mixed bag. Some of the gigs I had were great, some of them weren't so great. But you just go out and you kind of get seasoned. Now I don't, played on the West Coast, and I really don't care about going anywhere else. I mean, what we have around here is great. I mean, Charlotte, and even, here sometimes, some places in Gaston County, Dallas Brewing, Old Dallas Brewing, there's good venues. You have to seek them out, and then it's a hard life for them. But there's no need for me to fly across the ocean or drive to Oregon or somewhere I ain't got nothing to prove anymore. I just want to play music locally and not have to, and be able to sleep in my own bed and, eat at home and that kind of thing. But that's not what and I wasn't like that at one time. I thought I had to, and maybe it was good to go.
We traveled a lot. Like, we spent a lot of time in a Sears Roebuck van that had no insulation, driving around up north in the winter.
And down south, going
Yeah.
into Alabama.
We were lucky too. We got to play with a
Tennessee.
lot of amazing bands and see a lot of cool stuff. And
We used to go out to Nashville and,
yeah,
play these pointless kind of gigs in Birmingham. But maybe they're not
all through
pointless.
Texas.
Yeah, we had good gigs in Texas.
Texas was great.
Anytime we played with the Gourds, it was great. Even if it wasn't, it was great just to play with those guys and hang out with them. But you, Robert, you were the first one I saw that started saying this is kind of a waste of time. I think you went out west on a tour. And I hate that word.
I don't like to talk about that kind of stuff, but
Well, but you realize, though, that there's no sense in going thousands of miles to do this when you can just do it here.
Well, I heard about Buck Owens when he was getting old, and he just played at his house. and people would come see shows at his house. And I was like, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
and
does.
Charlotte being the community that it is, and Gastonia, and this North Carolina, South Carolina as a whole, like you can travel around and play amazing places that are kind of like playing at your house and play to different people. And, you know, it's a small enough area that it's like traveling around a little tiny Europe, but right here.
That's right. It is. It's like we got our own Holland right here.
Yeah.
Between here and Asheville and Greensboro and Winston-Salem.
We've found some great places and great people that have, you know, shared what they have with us, and we've tried to give them
Winston-Salem,
everything we can
Greensboro.
back, and it's worked out.
They've been really good to us up there. And
Or even places like Athens, Ohio, Pomeroy, Ohio, with
oh,
Wild
Ohio,
Alloys,
yeah,
and you know all those people at the Court Street Grill, Mothman Country.
Do you find it's like the reception has changed locally over the year, like since the '90s when you started?
Oh yeah,
playing?
it's so much better.
Yeah.
So much better. I'm actually proud of what goes on primarily in Charlotte, but just the whole state. You know, there's exceptions, but you know, we got our little areas, like you go up in Raleigh, Chapel Hill, Durham, well, they got their scene, and you come down here, there's a different scene. Winston, you know, there's different musicians, and there's not that much cross-fertilization, but, you know, there's comity, and we all try to help each other out for the most part.
I would say that we have been lucky to be embraced by almost all scenes
I
that
know,
we played in,
really.
and you know that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
But what I think it all comes back to is people, well, just, you know, people as a whole in America. Music is very important in their lives. And if you give them something real, they'll react to it. And that's what we always try to do. And we usually get a positive response.
I've been painting out here. It's a rainy day. So the things I paint, I take them in, let them dry off. But lately I've got several things going. I always keep several things because I don't like to waste paint. And I don't always, you know, sometimes get too much. So I've got pieces of stuff laying around. I like to paint on wood. But I like painting on about anything. Canvas is fine. It's shady, as you say.
Right.
But in the winter, the sun comes in.
I noticed a lot of the pieces that you had at the museum that are up right now had a lot of Zeppelins, a lot of war bent, everything.
Well, not so much that as just the vessels, you know. I've
Okay.
always liked blimps
Uh-huh.
and Zeppelins and ships and, you know, naval ships.
Right.
That's something I don't see many people doing that.
Nah.
The ones I do see do it a hell of a lot better than I do. But,
I don't know about
you know,
that.
it's just an impulse. I'm still a kid sitting in the back of the class drawing when he should be listening. But I'll clear, you know, sometimes this is cleared off and I got stuff out here. And,
Sure.
you know, I work at this every day. I don't think I'll do much today, but, you know, I haul this stuff out pretty much rain or shine. If it's real bad, I'll you know, work on my music or watch an old movie or something.
Sure. Well, you gotta have rest days, but I don't know. It's sort
Or
of
hug up on my wife or something. She still tolerates me. You know, I'll get an idea, get an image in my head or remember something or read something and try to recreate it. But mostly, I just find myself following where the brush goes and where the roller, you know, and the combination of colors
Yeah.
kind of create what I'm going to create.
Okay. Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Definitely. Yeah. That's what I say. I know a lot of sculptors say you bring it. What is it? Was it Michelangelo or Da Vinci? One said you find the angel in the stone.
Oh yeah. That's kind of what I do.
Right.
Especially with wood. You'll see patterns emerge, and then the patterns suggest the other thing, and that's really a big part of the fun of it. But you know the feeling when you've worked on something and you feel like, I'm failing at this. This ain't working. But you come back and there's that point where it's like, okay, now.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
You mentioned the art when you guys went to Holland and everything, and all the exposure to all the different things, the graffiti and the museums and what have you. When did you guys start getting into painting?
Well, I'd always been into painting since I was a kid, and drawing, and him too. Like, and my grandmother was an incredible artist.
Yeah,
His
she
mom.
was good, man.
Like, I would watch her draw and paint and be like, how is she doing that and sculpt? And then, I would say when I was hanging out with her a lot, I was a better artist. And I probably reached my art peak when I was like 13. Yeah, I was like incredible then. I could draw just like her. And then I kind of got away from it because I started like hanging out with artists, and I would be like, well, I can't paint a realist painting just like that, Like, I can't do what you're doing. So I kind of quit for a little bit and just got into other stuff and just playing music a lot more. And then we went to Holland, and it just seemed so accessible and easy to do, and you could see how they were doing it by looking at the paintings up close. And I can't remember the artist's name, but we saw this incredible exhibit. That was this guy who had come back. He was a doctor in World War II or World War I. Do you remember World War II?
He's a German, but I don't remember his name either.
Yeah, he just painted these real primitive, like they reminded me of, Southern works that I'd seen, like folk art.
They were grotesque.
Yeah.
Kind of like Gross, that artist Gross.
But they were just like obvious working out trauma. And battle scenes and stuff that was just taken, and I was like, man, this is like something I relate to, I'm blown away by, and I want to do it. And when we got back, we just kind of started, like, I don't know, it's weird. I started going out and doing lots of graffiti at night and just weird stuff, and then doing paintings all the time, like driving my wife crazy, but it was just kind of like an important thing that I had to get out, and it just hasn't stopped. I guess it's been almost at least 10 years now. Pretty continuously.
It's
I don't
been
do
more than
graffiti
that,
anymore.
man.
But,
We'll make that caveat.
yeah.
It's been over 10 years. 2008, early 2008, we were last in Holland when I think we went to that museum in 07. But I got sick with shingles, and I couldn't do much. I mean, and I could work. I was able to work, but I couldn't. I used to run, a couple miles a day, and I couldn't do that. So I started going out to this building out here and painting pictures. I'm like, well, hell, at least I can stand on my feet, get feeling better, and I'd paint. And I started enjoying it and finished a few things. They weren't very good, but my wife Linda encouraged me, and next thing I know, I was just kind of obsessed with it.
I remember the first time, that time I was telling you about when you came to the museum to play over at the Dallas Courthouse. And, we had been setting up chairs and tables and everything. And I remember Jason said, oh, he also needs a table by the door. And I was like, oh, okay. Like he's got like t-shirts or something. We were used to bands coming in with, might have some t-shirts or some CDs to sell and whatnot. And he was like, no, he's got art. He needs a bigger table. I'm like, art? What? Everything. He's like, yeah, he does like, the outsider folk type of art. And I'm like, oh, okay, And it's never been a genre that I have to say that I would see individual pieces that I liked, but as a whole, it wasn't a genre I really followed or that, I really was that into. And I remember you came in, and instead of going and putting down instruments, first thing you did was like lay out these paintings. I was just like, okay, all right, and then went and started set up instruments and that kind of thing. And I remember walking over there and going, oh my God, these are good actually. And I was like, I really like these. And I remember I actually bought a piece from you that night.
Well, I appreciate that.
But did you find or do you find that people don't realize that, whenever you say you're into art, it's not just the music. I mean, I know a lot of people are really familiar with you through your music and everything, but do you find people are occasionally surprised that you do these other forms of art? I mean, the
I don't
poetry?
think anymore. I don't know because I don't really talk to many people, and I sell my art on Facebook. It's done pretty well, putting them up there, and so, there's a core of people that are very supportive, and they're aware of it, and they want to see what's up, and so I don't, and going out playing, like I think most people just kind of, know about that now. And if they don't, well, I'm gonna show them if I have anything.
Well, you definitely impressed me and got me more interested.
Well, I'm glad. I don't know when I started doing that, but I just always got a good response from people, so they encouraged me to keep doing it.
Whenever you started painting, you said you started going out and doing the graffiti and that sort of thing. Where did you find your inspiration for your paintings? Because yours, I know, like the ones we have at the museum, and I haven't seen a lot of your other work, but a lot of it was really just sort of in your face. I mean, it was sort of, we talk about art speaking to you and everything, and this, a lot of your pieces I found were less, speaking to me and more like grabbing you by the front of the shirt and sort of like, all right, we're going to talk about this now,
That's the way I've approached all art. I'm glad to see it like that. I mean, I see art and, culture as a whole as like a war. And I've just tried to convey the emotions that, I feel towards people and towards life through paintings. But I also like to draw on religious symbolism and folk art ideas, music that I'm inspired by, culture that I'm inspired by. Like a lot of the paintings I do, I think about Carter family songs while I'm painting stuff, and it comes out as some kind of weird punk rock, Southern Gothic mix of stuff.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad you like it.
Yeah.
But no, I've always been like really, I dig contemporary art. I just can't, approach it with that style. It doesn't come out when I paint, but I'm trying to do that. Sure. But it's just what it is when it comes out. And I've been lucky that people have dug it and they've responded to it pretty quickly. So it's been
I
good.
think there's a certain authenticity there that people respect.
Yeah.
I think it's noticeable.
I'm glad that comes through. That's what I'm trying to do. Yeah. I mean, when I'm painting, it's a real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a literary element to it as well.
Like I'm not college educated, but my entire 20s, I pretty much just read as many books as I could get my hands on, and I don't know, that somehow comes through in the paintings. Like I'm thinking about Bukowski or Harry Crews or novels that I dig, and like how I can make that be visual. This is made out of some kind of, I always find stuff on the road, but this is some sort of like aluminum sheet metal that was like super thin.
Yeah.
And these are, I had a Goodyear art residency, and these are air filters that were left in the Goodyear factory that I repurposed. I used a bunch of them for eyes. It's the only ones left.
Thank you.
Heck yeah.
I should say you have said that the beats were a pretty.
Oh yeah, they're huge with me. And Bob Dylan's an extension of that. I mean, it's like, his writings like Allen Ginsberg or like Kerouac, or my favorite writer among the beats is actually Neil Cassady. He didn't write that much, but he was gritty. I mean, he was just like straight out of. It wasn't as flowery as say Kerouac or. Rambling as Ginsberg and William Burroughs, but yeah, I mean, and then you segue from that. Henry Miller, I read a lot of him. Probably why I'm like, oh, I'm such a degenerate. But all those writers from the '30s, and even Hemingway. You go back, he's a huge influence. Thomas Wolfe.
You think it was maybe for either one of you, maybe that sense of freedom or adventure a little bit?
Yeah, it was like an unleashing. And like in On the Road, there's this young guy going into America. And it's really a love poem, a lot of it about America. Good.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I got that bub out of horn on the downhill drag, better than it ever had been. Miss a lot of loving in my lifetime, never gonna do it again. Well, never gonna do it again. I like the brunettes and the redheads and the blonde-haired women. I love them every chance I can. Kiss them all as I go down the line, do it all over again. Well, I'll do it all over again. All right. Yeah, when I was in school, I done pretty good. Girls hung around me then. I was shy and I let them get away. Never gonna do it again. Oh, never gonna do it again. I got that bub out of horn on a downhill drag, better than it ever had been. There's a lot of loving in my lifetime, never gonna do it again. No, never gonna do it again. That's right. Stomping all over the town, trying to find all the places you've been. I miss your loving the last go around. Never gonna do it again, hell no. Never gonna do it again. I got the bub out of horn on the downhill drag, better than it ever had been. Miss a lot of loving in my lifetime, never gonna do it again. Oh, I'm never gonna do it again. I'm never gonna do it again. Never gonna do it again. Yeah. Hey, Johnny Horton song. My home was very free in many ways, and there was a lot of inspiration in literary, art, music, like we were talking about. But when you came out in the community, it was very restrictive, and I always felt like an outsider. My family wasn't from here. People had a lot of good friends, but basically I never really felt like I belonged. I was an outsider, and I think that's another thing with the Beats.
They're definitely
Because they're free, they can't fit into.
That's what draws me to it, is the fact that they're outside of, you know, regular culture. They're trying to destroy that and not be a part of that, and it just sucks you right in.
And it's not about setting up a utopia. It's just finding personal freedom and fulfillment.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, too often that meant, you know, drinking or doping yourself into oblivion. But, you know, you get like Gary Snyder. He's on the other side of that, more life affirming.
Did you have a similar feeling? I mean, because you grew up in this household that really encouraged.
Well, I was really lucky. Like, there were copies of Howl and On the Road and Junkie and all these great books laying around, so I could read them. And my parents had an amazing library, and my grandparents had an amazing library, and my cousins had an incredible library, and they all had incredible record collections. And I would go to other people's houses, and they wouldn't have that kind of stuff as much, and it was kind of sad. But, you know, I was lucky. Like, it was there, and I could take as much of it from it as I wanted or as little, and I just chose to get into it.
Sure. Did you have that same sorts of feeling outside
immediately
as soon as you
probably
stepped out?
because of all that? But, you know, I mean, I was into skateboarding and stuff really early on, and if you were a skateboarder, you were immediately against a lot of stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
And that had a lot to do with it. And, you know, I was exposed to punk rock really early from kids at my church who were into that, and my uncles and stuff. My uncle and my dad were both into punk rock, so it just leads you down a path of resistance. I mean, my parents were trying to push me to be the college football guy, and, you know,
we were.
all these other things were there that seemed so much more enticing. And I played sports until my 11th grade year. And I remember when I quit, my coach was like, I had planned for you could have been somebody, blah, blah. But I chose music and art over it pretty much. Like I had to make a choice, sort of.
I think it's a good choice.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been over at some point. Like this, I'm still doing it in my 40s, and my body hurts real bad. Like there's no way I could be an athlete.
Sure.
But I could be an artist and a musician and a producer and, you know, just doing cool stuff and like running clubs, running sound, all that stuff's fun. And you can do that.
Yeah.
You can't really always be a boxer or a wrestler or a football player for your whole
Yeah,
life.
sports is very, very important in this culture. And
But I'm really glad I have all that. Like that's
yeah, I'm
been
glad
something
I
that's
did
helped
that.
me a lot in life, like doing all that. It's made me a stronger person. So I don't.
But you
I don't
kind of
reject
learn
it.
what's important.
For sure.
You know, I mean, I reached that thing finally in my early 40s. Like, you're going to keep playing industrial league basketball and softball, or you're going to really get serious about music.
But I started playing music really seriously when I was probably 11 or 12. Like, there were kids in the neighborhood that were amazing drummers, and we would all just get together and just play hard for hours. I mean, I'm sure it drove the neighbors and y'all crazy.
Oh, I loved it. No, we loved it, man.
But it was like a tribal, real crazy thing that we would do. And it was like, we considered it a battle. We would call it battling. And we would do that for hours and hours and hours. And then, like he said, pretty quick after there, I got into punk rock bands that pretty much just turned into weird gangs. And they were just very negative. But the important focus of that for me was music. And I just carried that on while those people went into their lives of crime or whatever. I just kept playing music. And
Some of them did, you know.
it's incredible. Like almost every single person that I've just told about has ended up in prison, except for me, because I was able to, and like for really crazy violent stuff, like all of them, like insane things. But I was able to just keep my head out of that by staying focused and being embraced pretty early on by the Charlotte music community, taken in, given jobs in clubs, being told this is what you should be doing instead of doing that. So it's been kind of awesome. It's really kept me alive, probably.
I was going to say the focus was different for you then.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in all that kind of stuff, and
Sure.
when the moment was there, I was with them, but then it was like, wait a minute, y'all's lives are going to be ruined. I'm going to go do this. And it's been great that I had that. Like, had I not started playing drums seriously when I was 11 years old, what would I be? I would have nothing. I would have never done any of this amazing stuff, traveled around with you or with
I know.
any of the incredible artists I've been able to go out and play music with over the years. I mean, it's been a gift. It's been an amazing thing.
You know, the sad, when we moved back here, I went away for several years and then came back here in 81. And I think Rob was about 4 or 5. But watching him, it was so much like me. And it made me sad. It's like, oh God, he's going to go through the same kind of ostracization or whatever that I went through. And he's going to have to fight the same battles that I fought.
You have to be in a fight. You have to always be in a war. And music, art, culture, that's what I chose to be my war. Well, both of her mom, her father and your father were both soldiers. And I feel like that's been something that we've carried on but through art and through like, you know, what we bring to people.
Well, it's
as,
an
like,
idea of
this is-
serving the community. And I also love my country very much.
Well, you bring that out in your art and your music.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
like-
I love
it's
America, and you know, that doesn't mean I like everything that happens, and I'll speak out about what I don't like.
That's what I love about bands like the Dead Kennedys and stuff, is that they obviously love America, and yet they're disgusted by what they see as the wrongs of America. And I feel like you're doing the same kind of thing with what you do with country music. I mean, it's amazing. Or traditional music. I wouldn't even say country.
That's
I would
why
say,
I'd go out to Nashville, and they'd be like, "You too left wing," and I'm like, "I'm left wing. I don't, you know." But I kind of get it now, you know.
With your painting or with your music, did you guys find a change there with the pandemic?
with both, yes, for sure.
I work every day at it, you know, pretty much all day. You know, when the weather's really good, I'm out there in the morning and I go until the sun is going down. For various reasons, the main thing is just I love it. I love doing it. And I get, you know, I come in the night, evening, and you know, I'm tired in a good way. I like that feeling, being wore out in a good way.
I had like done a lot of art for a long time and cared a lot about it and wanted to be an artist so bad and like worked hard to get residencies and art shows and had done all that. And was at a point where I was like, I'd almost given up. I wasn't feeling anything from music or art. And I was kind of disgusted with society and the way the city had changed and just lots of stuff. And so the pandemic hit and it made me reevaluate everything. I took like a couple months off from doing anything. And suddenly I had a whole new inspiration and I've been making new music. I've been lucky to work with this guy, Justin Aswell, or Justin Blackwood in Mount Holly, who's an incredible producer. And we've been making electronic music, which I never thought I would do.
Lord have
And,
mercy, Rob.
It's just been like eye-opening doing that. And then suddenly I got a whole new inspiration for paintings from the political climate from all this and watching like the collapse of everything that had been, I'd worked in clubs and bars and done whatever for 15 years of my life and it seemed really solid and it was gone. Just like that. Like I had nothing. So it was eye-opening. It's been pretty incredible and I've managed to turn it into positivity, I feel like, which has been nuts, but it's been cool.
What I've seen since this pandemic's been pretty amazing. I knew people loved the music because we had a lot of regular people that come out. Then I started meeting and moving around a lot of the Avett Brother fans because they've been so kind to us and, have let people know who I am as a writer. But people need this music and they're desperate for it. And it's just, I feel really lucky and blessed to be able to do that. I don't care anymore. It used to be like, oh, you got to play your own songs and do that and establish yourself. I don't care anymore. It's like I want to play a song that hits me in the gut, that comes from the heart. I don't have time, I only got a few more years left in this existence, so my theory is I'm going to enjoy it as much as I can. Somewhere in there.
Perfect.
Is that good?
Perfect. I think that's plenty.
I might have been a little loud.
Feel free to play for as long as you want.
Well, thank you, man.
I hate to make you.